NBA's best record at 56-11. This is a busy time and a fun experience for Norfolk State Athletics Director Melody Webb. The Norfolk State men and women's basketball teams are in the NCAA tournament. Webb was hired at the HBCU school on July 1st, 2020. She's the first female athletics director at Norfolk State in school history. The men's team plays Florida on Friday. The women's team faces Maryland Saturday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that like George and Weezy,
well, we're moving on now.
Earlier this year, we were named a semifinalist for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th. At 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
When the world is on your shoulder, gotta straighten up your act and boogie down. If you can't hang with the feeling, then there ain't no room for you in this part of town. 'Cause we're the party people night and day, living crazy, that's the only way. So tonight, gotta leave the 9 to 5 up on the shelf and just enjoy yourself. Groove, let the medicine, the music get to you. Life ain't so bad at all. You live it off the wall.
I'm Tavis, Smiley. Delighted to have you with us today in this second hour of our program. That first hour was fire, in part because of all the breaking news of this day. It's hard to keep up. I will take a moment, in a moment, to sort of review what we know at this hour. But in this hour, I'm delighted to be in conversation with Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Will Bunch. I said to you last hour, I love talking to columnists because you never know where the conversation is going to lead, although today I know we are somewhat boxed in with the breaking news of the day. But I love talking to columnists because they do make their living opining on a little bit of everything. So I expect a spirited dialogue with Will Bunch in this hour about a bevy of trending topics. So before I jump into that, Will, good to have you on. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Tavis. I'm good. You are certainly right. It is a crazy news day.
Yeah. Let me reframe this. I recognize that I'm on 3 hours a day and people tune in at different times and in and out of cars and whatever they're doing. So just give me a couple minutes here to sort of set where we are today, reset this table. And then I'll let you run wild the rest of the hour here. So in no particular order, we know that the Trump administration, because they've said so publicly, were fully aware of the Israeli strikes in Gaza last night. The White House was consulted. Donald Trump gave thumbs up to this trying to find the right word. This bombing. I'll go with that for now. We'll unpack that a little bit later. But 404 people killed, more than 560 injured. Many people are still buried under rubble. Recovery efforts are underway, but Donald Trump was aware and approved this decision by Israel last night to just essentially abandon the ceasefire and to restart this war. We were talking with former Alabama Senator Doug Jones in our last hour, and I asked him point blank whether or not this signals all-out war once again, or whether or not, Hamas will get whatever message Israel says it was trying to send, and conversations will commence once again about phase 2 of this process. So put a pin in that for now. We'll sign off on that in a moment. But the question I also asked Doug Jones in the last hour was whether or not he sees Donald Trump showing up any differently than Joe Biden. And he's my friend, Doug Jones is. I heard his answer. Not so sure I completely agree with that, what he had to say. Donald Trump has said things that Joe Biden would never say, like I want to make, Gaza the Mar-a-Lago of the Middle East or the Riviera of the Middle East. Joe Biden would never say that, of course. But politically and practically, I'm not so sure there's much difference between what Biden did or didn't do, depending on how you look at it, and what Trump signed off on last night. I really don't see much of a difference between Trump and Biden. That's me. Put a pin in that, as I said, for the moment. That's one piece. The other piece of news that we've been covering today, of course, is Donald Trump, as I said last hour, not just thumbing his nose, but giving his finger to the judiciary. Tom Homan, who is running this deportation effort for Donald Trump, said, and I quote once again, "We are going to make this country safe again. I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We are not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming." Then Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said that the judge's order had no lawful basis. That's her phrase. No lawful basis does this judge's order have in telling Donald Trump what to do about deportations. This judge being, of course, Judge James E. Boasberg. And then Donald Trump speaks up himself. He don't need Tom Homan speaking for him. He doesn't need his press secretary speaking for him, although that's what they're paid to do. Donald Trump speaks for himself and posts on Truth Social, his website, calling for the impeachment of this district judge. So Donald Trump has called for the impeachment of the judge, James Boasberg, who called for a halting of his use of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, which we discussed on this program in detail yesterday. So Trump has now called for the impeachment of that judge. He called him a radical left lunatic. He called him a troublemaker and an agitator. He said, and I quote, "He didn't win the popular vote. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached." So Mr. Homan says we ain't stopping. We don't care what this judge thinks. His press secretary says the judge has no lawful basis, no authority in this matter. Donald Trump then calls for the judge's impeachment, and then the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts, says, "Okay, enough is enough. I need to say something." And literally within the last hour or so, Chief Justice John Roberts has released a public statement, very rare for him, but it released a public statement saying that for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. He goes on to say, "We do not have Obama judges or Trump judges, Bush judges or Clinton judges. What we have is an extraordinary group of dedicated judges doing their level best to do equal right to those appearing before them. That independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for," close quote. As I said last night, I repeat again, I don't believe that most Americans believe that there are not Obama judges or Trump judges or Bush judges or Clinton judges. Put a pin in that for now. That's just my brief effort to sort of set the frame for all that's happening in this day. We are watching Donald Trump's Truth Social. We are watching to see what Donald Trump is going to say. You know it's coming. What is he going to say about what John Roberts had to say? It's going to be a great conversation for the hour with Will Bunch of the Philadelphia Inquirer. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
emergency. Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out, because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Mayfresh Daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Will Bunch. Will, before I jump into this conversation with you, let me just say condolences to you on the loss of your father. I heard about that, and I just want to let you know that we are pulling and praying for you and your precious family. And I'm honored that even with that in your frame, in your worldview, you agreed to come on this program. So thank you for that, sir. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I really appreciate that so much, Tavis. Thank you. That's very kind of you to mention that. He was a great man. He had a full life, 88 years, and we said goodbye at a funeral service yesterday, and it's a void not having him here, but life goes on, and so I'm easing back into things, and I thought talking to you for a little bit about what's going on in the world would be a good way to kind of ease back into getting back to normal life. So, but your kind thoughts mean a lot to me.
No, you picked the right day because there's so much to talk about in this hour.
Yeah,
but I want to
just
want to let you know that I'm again thinking about you and your family in this difficult hour.
Thank you so much, Tavis.
And just last year, it's almost, as a matter of fact, it's almost a year now. Almost a year to the day now that I lost my father. I just lost my father last year, so I'm still kind of navigating my way through that. So I know what you're in for the next year, and so again, you're in my thoughts and prayers at this hour and in the days to come. So I said this last hour, and I said it yesterday because it just seems appropriate. I'll do the same thing for you that I did to my guest yesterday, the same thing I did for Senator Doug Jones in the first hour. It's a Jeopardy board. There's so much on the board today. You are a columnist. As I said, I love talking to columnists because I know your mind is going. So pick where you want to start on this Jeopardy board of hot topics today, sir. We'll go, and I'll follow you.
Sure. Well, both topics, that you mentioned in the lead-in are both, of course, on my mind. I think I have a couple interesting or different, maybe a different thought also on the Gaza piece. But I want to talk first. I want to talk first about the judicial situation.
Sure.
And there's been so much talk since Trump became president again back in January about whether some of the things that he'd promised to do as a candidate, whether any of these things would provoke what they call a constitutional crisis, right? And I'm sure a lot of your listeners understand what that means. The Constitution lays out very specifically what the responsibilities are of, the president or the executive branch, and the Congress, and then the judiciary, the judicial branch. And a constitutional crisis is when those things kind of come into conflict, or one of the actors in that grand scheme of government doesn't seem to be living up to what's supposed to be happening. And I think this this statement in the last hour or two from Justice Roberts really drives home that this is, there can be no question at this point that this is a constitutional crisis, because, to have the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court weigh in, without, not at a legal hearing and not in response to like a brief or anything, but just to come out publicly and make this statement, knowing the level of attention it would get. The fact that he felt compelled to do that really shows that we're in a major situation here. Because Trump promised as a candidate in his 2024 campaign that in a number of ways that he would try and run this country in a way that aside from pledging to be a dictator, but only on day one. But a lot of us assume that nobody does that. If you're a dictator for one day, you're probably going to want to keep going on some of these things. And what we've seen in the first, it's been almost we're coming up almost on the 2-month mark of his presidency, and we've seen a lot of his major initiatives. I don't want to say stymied because he's going ahead with them, but a lot of his major initiatives have really run into problems in the courts because some of the main things that he's trying to do, whether it's mass layoffs of federal employees or trying to amp up this whole deportation plan, and we're not even up to mass deportation yet, but just increased deportations and arrests of people. There are legal processes for these that it can be very if to go through the legal process to deport somebody who's in this country without authorization is used to be usually a lengthy process because people are supposed to be able, be entitled to a hearing. And the situation that triggered this specific crisis and that caused Justice Roberts to make this statement, it's just a horrible situation in so many ways. Obviously, look, stating the obvious, nobody wants to see criminal activity or particularly gang, criminal activity in the United States, and to the extent that happens, of course, we support law enforcement taking the proper steps for this. But these, just quickly on this, these 238, or I forget the exact number, but these people who are of Venezuelan descent, who the Trump administration is accused of being members of this Venezuelan gang, and who were on planes, headed towards El Salvador. A couple things. The vast majority of them, hardly any of them, have criminal records in the United States. These people have just not been given any kind of day in court to challenge their deportation, let alone the fact that the government is branding them as, quote, terrorists, unquote. People, their attorneys went to court, attorneys for several of them, I think 5 of them, went to court to try and stop these deportations. The judge agreed that this wasn't due process and that they should, under no circumstances, leave the United States. And if the planes taking them out of the country were in the air, then those planes should turn around. and they had every opportunity to follow the judge's order, and they didn't. They defied it.
That's right.
They even launched. They even one of the planes even took off after the judge's order, so it wasn't even in the air yet. But they still flew these people to El Salvador, a third country. And the deal with El Salvador is to put them in this kind of notorious kind of supermax prison, with a plan to have them do a year of forced labor. I mean, I don't know about you, Tavis, but I mean, to me, this sounds like the stories I remember from the Soviet Union. When I was growing up. They had. I guess it was Alexander Solzhenitsyn who wrote that book called The Gulag Archipelago, and it was about the Soviet labor camps.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what it reminds me of.
No, there's clearly no due process in this saga, and that's the point you were making a moment ago. Let me just ask you this though, and I'm not asking you to get inside of Donald Trump's head. I am asking you as one who writes a column for the Philadelphia Inquirer and thinks about these things all day long. What do you think Trump's next move is? I said at the top of this hour that I'm just waiting. We're all waiting to see what Donald Trump is going to say in response to what John Roberts has said. We know that many of these judges on this court were appointed, of course, by Donald Trump. But John Roberts ain't having it. If you, again, read the detail of what he said, and this is a rare public statement from the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. So Donald Trump has been out front calling for the impeachment of this judge. Tom Homan, who I quoted earlier, said we don't care what judges think. His press secretary said the judge has no lawful authority in this regard. It's a scary thought to even put myself inside of Donald Trump's head or to try to. But let me ask the question a bit different. What's Trump's next move? John Roberts has spoken. You know Trump's going to respond. What's his next move?
Yeah, well, the Roberts statement is important. It's and powerful. It's also not super specific as relates to this case, right? I mean, let's get back to the case at hand. And what the choices are there. Because I believe another hearing is scheduled for today. In fact, it might be underway at this time. I've been doing the interview, so I haven't really checked in the last half hour or so. But I know they were going back to the judge for a hearing on this case, and to see whether I don't know what could be done at this point to bring these people back from El Salvador. But I mean, certainly he could order the people in the government be held, in the Trump administration be held for contempt of court for seemingly defying his order. I mean, that's certainly a possibility that's on the table, and we'll see. So I mean, the Roberts situation said the proper channel is to appeal the decision.
Yeah,
and obviously this hasn't been appealed all the way up yet, and a question that's on a lot of people's minds is, would Trump try and take this all the way to the Supreme Court in the hope that because, he's appointed 3 out of the 9 justices, it's been a very Trump-friendly court in many ways. It certainly gave him, king-like powers in that major decision last year. Is he going to gamble taking this to the Supreme Court, or is he just going to ignore the judiciary altogether?
So to your point now, let me just quote once again from Tom Homan. I shared with you a quote earlier from Tom Homan that we're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming. That's what he said. And I shared that quote earlier. But then he was asked, what's coming next in the administration's deportation efforts? And Homan said, and I quote, another flight every day. He said, what's coming next? He said, another flight every day.
Yeah, well, when he says, I mean, I think the key line in there is when he says, we don't care what the judges think. I mean, if that's, Tom Homan, I'm sure you've talked about him on your show before, and he's a very extreme official when it comes to his views on immigration and whatnot. But if that's going to be the policy of the entire Trump administration, that we don't care what the judges say. Well, I mean, that's utterly unconstitutional, and that's a constitutional crisis to the nth degree, and it's almost defined. And then the question is, well, all right, let's you know, it's kind of like a war game. You know, you play out these scenarios, right? I mean, what if Trump just ignores the judges and that's it?
So what if? Let's go there, Will. What do you think? What do you think happens if Donald Trump comes out in the next few minutes? Because we know it's coming. He is going to respond to what John Roberts said. We know that. If he tells John Roberts to kick rocks, take a hike, then what?
Well, we're in uncharted waters.
Yes, we are.
We've never because we've never had a president in 249 years. Well, I guess we haven't had presidents for that long, but 240 or so years of having a president. We've never had a president. Take it to that level in terms of defying the judiciary. I mean, there's always been talk. There's the famous quote, which I think might be apocryphal, but the line that they attribute anyway to Andrew Jackson about when he was told not to do the Trail of Tears and the forced migration of the Cherokees and the indigenous Americans in the Southeast. He would say, well, let the Chief Justice try and enforce that, right? And the idea that, there's only one. There may be three co-equal branches of government, but only one of them has a military and generals at their command, and that's the executive branch.
We will.
I think, and it's funny because I think this also kind of relates to the other big story today, the Gaza situation.
Hold that thought. We'll hold that thought. One second. We will see in the coming hours, if not minutes, certainly days, how Jacksonian, speaking of Andrew Jackson, how Jacksonian Trump feels he can be or will be in this moment. We'll talk more about that, and you hear Will about to make a connection between this story and what's happening with Israel and Gaza. We'll let him make that connection and more. Hold your thought, Will. Don't forget where you were now when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one, even if it's not with Progressive. Way more confident than you were when you tried online gaming. Who knew 12-year-old boys could be so mean? And where did they learn to swear like that? 2 hours of losing to these underage trash talkers, and you're starting to question if maybe you really should stick to pickleball and other boomer stuff. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The parents of missing University of Pittsburgh student Sudiksha Konanki have asked Dominican authorities to declare her dead. Konanki disappeared on March 6th in Punta Cana. Her family notes the American man she was last seen with has cooperated with investigators, and there are no signs of foul play. D.C.'s Black Mayor Muriel Bowser supports President Trump's efforts to keep the FBI headquarters in D.C. instead of moving to Greenbelt, Maryland. Trump wants the FBI and DOJ close together, but the final location is undecided. A new report shows violent crimes in Los Angeles decreased in 2024. Black Mayor Karen Bass highlighted a 14% drop in homicides along with reductions in aggravated assault and robberies. And FX has ordered a pilot for a Snowfall spinoff starring Gail Bean and Isaiah John. Set in the 90s, the show will follow Wanda, a recovering addict, as she navigates gang wars and aims to bring West Coast rap mainstream. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers continue to get it done without LeBron. They beat San Antonio Monday night 125-109. 30 points for Austin Reeves. Luka Doncic had 21 points and 14 assists. LeBron has been working out the past 3 days, but no word yet on his return. LeBron has been out since March 8th with a groin injury. Interesting game for the Clippers tonight. They play the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Cavs have the NBA's best record at 56-11. This is a busy time and a fun experience for Norfolk State Athletics Director Melody Webb. The Norfolk State men and women's basketball teams are in the NCAA tournament. Webb was hired at the HBCU school on July 1st, 2020. She's the first female athletics director at Norfolk State in school history. The men's team plays Florida on Friday. The women's team faces Maryland Saturday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Canyon Fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On the Conversation Live Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record. Unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on the Conversation Live Altadena Rising every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Stories are power. The Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project is an effort to collect, preserve, and amplify stories of Black land loss. It will form an invaluable resource for scholars, authors, historians, educators, storytellers, policymakers, and change agents who wrestle with issues of restitution, reparations, racial inequality in home ownership, and the racial wealth gap. Through documenting stories of Black land loss, the archive will help demonstrate the magnitude of what Black families have lost and will continue the national dialogue to encourage paths to restitution, rebuilding, and healing. Support the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project by visiting www.blacklandlost.org or by donating at www.blacklandlost.org/donate. Spread the word to inspire awareness, activism, leadership, and change. And join us in making a lasting impact. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Will Bunch, Philadelphia Inquirer columnist. Before I let Will make that connection, he was going to make one or two other quick things here about this news of the day. Donald Trump thumbing his nose at the judiciary, so much so that the Chief Justice, John Roberts, in case you've just tuned in, had to make a statement pushing back on Trump, calling for the impeachment of judges that he disagrees with. So a rare public comment, public statement from the Chief Justice saying, whoa, Nelly, Mr. President, you're starting to go a little too far here. Just a quick word, though, we've been talking about this judge that Donald Trump earlier today on True Social called for his impeachment, and that's what, of course, pushed John Roberts into action, making a statement when Trump went on True Social and called him a radical left lunatic, a troublemaker, and an agitator, saying he didn't win the popular vote by a lot like I did, saying he's like many of the crooked judges I'm forced to appear before, he should be impeached. And so then John Roberts responds, just trying to bring you up to speed right quick in case you've just tuned in. A quick word, though, before I get back to Will here, about who this judge is, just so you know. When Trump calls him a radical left lunatic, he has been supported as he has climbed the ladder in a bipartisan way. President George W. Bush appointed him in 2002 to the D.C. Superior Court. President Barack Obama named him in 2011 to the U.S. District Court. So he's been appointed at various stages of his career by both George Bush and Barack Obama. So when he calls him a radical left lunatic, hard to argue that when you've got George Bush in the picture here. Interestingly, he was a law school housemate, not just classmate, but housemate of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Who knew? They were roommates. He was a former homicide prosecutor, fascinating profile. Just want to give you a little taste of who this guy is. But when Donald Trump calls him a radical left lunatic, again, he's been appointed by both George Bush and Barack Obama. So there'll be much more about this judge, of course, in the coming days. But Chief Justice John Roberts came to his rescue, came to his defense an hour or two ago, saying that the president, I'm just paraphrasing here, is you're going too far, brother. You're doing too much. And we will see what will happen in the days ahead. As I said earlier, we are expecting Donald Trump, surely at a time of his own choosing, but I suspect sooner than later, to comment on what John Roberts had to say. And the question I asked Will Bunch, our guest in this hour earlier, was what happens if Donald Trump tells John Roberts to kick rocks? Well, then we are deeply in a constitutional crisis at that point. Will Bunch, again, Philadelphia Inquirer columnist, is our guest in this hour. Will, you were making a point before that break, and you were trying to pivot for me, and I'm okay with the pivot because I want to cover this Israel-Gaza thing as well. So pivot me, if you will, sir.
Well, I think there's a bit of a connection, and you actually mentioned it at the top of this hour in your lead into this hour about it's been very important for Trump to put his own people in over at the Pentagon. They really fought to get this Pete Hegseth confirmed as defense secretary, despite his kind of appalling lack of credentials for the job. And as you know, they fired the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, who's one of the most qualified and distinguished people ever to hold that post, and they just summarily fired him. And Trump clearly wants his own people in there, and I think there's a couple things going on. But like I was saying before the commercial break, if there's a constitutional crisis, Trump's control of the military, I mean, it's just a scenario that we never thought we'd see in this country in our lifetime. But Trump's control of the military becomes an issue. Yeah. And I think it relates. You say about pivoting to Gaza, a couple things, and you mentioned this is we have a Pentagon with Pete Hegseth at the helm. One of the things that made him kind of stand out as a Fox News commentator, which is the thing that brought him to Trump's attention in the first place, was that he was somebody who was big on defending people accused of war crimes in the Afghanistan situation. And since taking office a month or so ago, he's talked about pulling out of various conventions and protocols that we have that are aimed at preventing war crime type activity. And is that a prelude to Gaza? I don't know. But the other point I wanted to make, though, is even though they're totally different situations, I think both, defying the court system, number one, and also amping up the war in Gaza, number two. Both of those things, I think, are going to generate even more protest activity, and we're already seeing like a pretty hot, after the first few weeks, some people said, "Oh, I can't believe nobody's protesting Trump." Well, now we've seen actually a pretty robust protest infrastructure. We certainly have the Tesla dealership protests is one thing. We've had protests by fired federal employees. We have veterans protesting. We have some other protests that are just people.
And they wanted, they wanted to protest Chuck Schumer this week on his book tour after what he did on Friday, but he canceled all of his appearance appearances in Baltimore, D.C., and beyond. He canceled everything because he knew those protests were coming. They said it was canceled for security concerns. I ain't buying that. Chuck Schumer did what he did on Friday. He doesn't want to hear it from the American people, and for me, that is cowardly. But those are protests that will not happen outside of book signings because Chuck Schumer ain't showing up. You heard Will Bunch a moment ago mention Pete Hegseth, and he is clearly one of Trump's people. I want to play just a short clip here of Pete Hegseth, and I want you to pay attention. Just listen to his language. Listen to the hostility of his language. Listen to his word choices. This is the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth.
Well, it all went down because an era of peace through strength is back. Just like in his first term, President Trump had to deal with the weakness of President Obama and get rid of ISIS, and he did it more quickly than anybody else. We're sitting on 4 years of deferred maintenance from Joe Biden, where in particular, when you talk about the Houthis, they were allowed for over 100 times to shoot at U.S. Ships, to shoot at commercial shipping. 4 months ago, when we sent a ship through, it was shot at 17 times. Ships haven't been able to go through for over a year without being shot at. Freedom of navigation is basic. It's a core national interest. And President Trump has said, we will restore that and we will be unrelenting. I want to be very clear. This campaign is about freedom of navigation and restoring deterrence. The minute the Houthis say, we'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, it will be unrelenting. We got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message. And the message is clear to Iran as well. And the president said it in his truth. Your support of the Houthis needs to end immediately. We will hold you accountable as the sponsor of this proxy. And I echo his statement. We will not be nice about it. This is not the Biden administration. The message is clear. We will come after the Houthis until they stop shooting at our ships, and the Iranians better stay out of it.
I ask you whether or not that sounds like the Secretary of Defense or a Fox News contributor. You heard it. Pete Hegseth has no idea where the line is. That is not the way the Defense Secretary presents himself or herself. It was partisan. It was political. It was charged. It was threatening. I could do more if I had the time. You take my point. Is that the Defense Secretary? Or is that a Fox News contributor talking? You heard Will Bunch reference Pete Hegseth, so it was a great opportunity to weave in that clip. We'll let Will Bunch respond to that and a great deal more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
call your senior Medicare patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-78.
The revolution will not be televised.
What's up? It is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render, and I'm encouraging you to listen to more, not less, of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Senator Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Will Bunch. Will, you raised this issue. I just followed you. Pete Hegseth is clearly one of Donald Trump's people. He has everybody where he wants them. He controls, as commander-in-chief, all the power of the military, and clearly Pete Hegseth will get in line and do whatever Donald Trump tells him. That clip that I played, did it sound to you like the defense secretary or a Fox News contributor?
Well, you stole the words from my mouth. I don't even know how I could add on that. I mean, it just that. But this is why Trump picked him, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what he wants in a defense secretary. He wants somebody who talks like a Fox News host, and so he's doing the job that Trump picked him for.
Yeah.
My worry, and it just ties into all of this stuff, is, and there have been reports that this is under consideration, is that Trump is going to activate the Insurrection Act, which is what allows him to use the military on domestic soil. Because, right before the clip, I was pointing out that whether it's defying the judiciary or whether it's increasing the war on Gaza, which, caused so much protest around this time last year on college campuses, these are excuses, I mean, Trump thinks that we're all radical left lunatics, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these are excuses for them to amp up their response to protests.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they'll also use that situation to say that we're in a state of emergency, that the presidency has all kinds of powers, that this is an emergency because there's anarchy in the streets.
Yeah.
Because people, that's how, yeah.
No. Speaking, I didn't mean to cut you off. Speaking of protests, let me just ask you what the Democratic response ought to be. And I want to read a quote from one of our listeners who sent this to me, a really bright audience. I love this audience. Quote, "We won't listen to judges," close quote. That, Tavis, is what gangsters say. If progressives and Democrats were to reframe MAGA and Trump as a gang, would more Americans oppose Trump and be open to sending him to a concentration camp in El Salvador? I get the tongue-in-cheek, I get the joke, but there's a serious question. There's a serious question here. And the question is, why can't Democrats get on the good foot and reframe Trump and all his team as a gang? Only gangsters say we don't listen to judges. The caller is right about that. If Democrats could just get their act together and reframe what he's done, they would have a winning argument, I think, with many people in the American public. What say you about the Democrats' ability to reframe this argument, casting him and those who support him as a gang when they say we don't listen to judges, man.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think one of the big problems for Democrats these last couple of months has been, they're so torn. In so many of these Democrats, especially, some of the older ones who've been around for a while, like the Chuck Schumers or the Nancy Pelosi type folks, they're so geared towards the idea that voters want bipartisanship, which they do. Which, if there was good bipartisanship, they would be for that. They are for that.
Yep.
But that this is what we want, or do we go in front of the public and say, look, we're pro democracy, and this other group, the Republicans and Trump, have crossed the line, that they are no longer democratic, that they are a threat to our democratic system, and so we can't, we can't cooperate with them on a budget.
Yeah.
We can't really make deals with them. We have to confront them because, we've learned, from World War II on, we've learned that you don't do appeasement with people like this.
Yeah, I hear your point. Judge Richard J. Sullivan, whom Donald Trump appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in New York City, has this to say. This is a Trump judge who has this to say. And I quote, "Threats against judges are threats against constitutional government. Everyone should be taking this seriously." So even some of Trump's appointees are suggesting that his calling for the impeachment of judges he doesn't agree with is beyond the pale. You're listening to Will Bunch on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Think about your mentors and idols, the people who inspire you the most. While it may look like they have all the answers, they don't. But they do know when to ask questions and seek the support they need. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better with a support system. Therapy is a great way to find a consistent source of support in your life, so you can break free from the outdated belief that seeking help is a sign of weakness. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help you with challenges ranging from anxiety and depression to relationships and stress. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. You can even send your therapist a message anytime something comes up. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABCRadio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABCRadio.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Will Bunch. I got 3 minutes left with Will in this conversation. Will, let me close our dialogue in this hour, and we'll do it again, of course, down the road. And I thank you for your time, particularly the day after you buried your precious father. So you used the word promises earlier in this conversation, and it made me think. whether or not, and Joe Biden used this line during the campaign before he got out. Donald Trump used a version of this line during his campaign, which he won. But that you recall that line, promises made, promises kept. Promises made, promises kept. They both had a different version of it. With regard to Donald Trump, if you were a Donald Trump supporter at this moment, and especially given all the news of today, Israel, Gaza, and his thumbing his nose and giving the middle finger to the judiciary, et cetera, promises made, promises kept. Is that an argument that you believe in or that you buy right now if you were a Trump supporter?
Well, I think he promised basically to rule as an autocrat. So he is. So it is right. He's keeping his promise, and you and I both know that millions of people out there are getting their news from dubious, or getting their information. I wouldn't even call it news, frankly. Getting information from dubious sources. What these people are hearing is that Trump is getting bad guys out of the country. We don't have time, but I mean, there's a lot of evidence that these people aren't necessarily bad guys. I mean, a few of them might be, but a lot of them aren't. But they're hearing that Trump's getting bad guys out of the country. They're seeing bombs dropping on Houthis. They're seeing bombs dropping on Palestinians in Gaza, and they're not bothered by any of this at this point. But the more that Trump can get away with ruling in this, king-like autocratic manner, the more it is going to affect people. It is going to affect everyday people in ways they don't even understand yet.
There's no question to my mind that there are at least two things at work here, and we can talk about the issues ad nauseum, the issues ad infinitum. But there are two things that are happening here, it's clear to me, in no particular order. Donald Trump is trying to amass as much power as he can, number one. Number two, he's going to push this envelope as far off the table, out the door, down the street as he can. And I would add a third, that this is really all about, so much of this is about suppressing dissent and free speech. So never mind the issues that Will and I have discussed in this hour, that I'm discussing every day on this program for 3 hours. Keep those three things in mind. He's amassing power. He's going to push the envelope as far as he can, see what he can get away with. And he's going to push back on dissent and free speech if you say or do things that he doesn't like. And that's true whether your name is Mahmoud Khalil or whether your name is whether you're a federal judge, right? James E. Boasberg. Doesn't really matter whether you're a federal judge or an immigrant. He's going to push back on you. I digress for now. Will Bunch, thank you for this conversation. We'll do it again, friend. All the best to you and your family.
All right, Tavis. Thanks so much. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The parents of missing University of Pittsburgh student Sudiksha Konanki have asked Dominican authorities to declare her dead. Konanki disappeared on March 6th.